Super mutants are big boys. The smallest ones tower above the average human. The slimmest ones are far more muscular than the common wastelander. Their bodies are designed for brutality, to destroy all that stands in their way. They are a war machine. But a machine needs energy to function, as does every living creature, super mutants included. With such hulking physiques, it's only natural that these meta-humans would need to eat quite a lot. But how much energy does a super mutant need? Let's go through some nutritional basics and try to keep it very simple. When we eat food, we consume calories, a unit of energy. There's also micronutrients and macronutrients. Micronutrients are your vitamins and minerals, and are generally eaten in smaller quantities, often measured in milligrams, while macronutrients are measured in grams and are what carries the calories, turning calories into something of an umbrella term. There's three types of macros: carbohydrates, fats, and protein. Carbohydrates are the primary energy source for the body, useful for fueling intense activities. These guys are the front line of your energy expenditure. Fats help absorb vitamins, provide insulation, and protect your organs, as well as act as a source of energy, which is the secondary one the body will burn after carbs. It's often denser, longer lasting, and very fuel efficient. There's different types of fats, but beyond the scope of this video. And finally, protein, the building block of the body. It's used for repairing tissue, bone, and muscle. It's often considered the most important one when it comes to developing muscle mass. It can be used for energy, but the body prefers to use carbs and fats. Now, for the purposes of this video, we're focused more on the overall calorie information. But we'll mention the macros, because as you can imagine, super mutants need a fair bit of protein. Okay, so super mutants are humans but evolved through the forced evolutionary virus. We're assuming that their digestive systems and method of burning calories hasn't changed much beyond the expected metabolic needs as they grew, gained muscle, and what fat they have, which may be something a mistake, but some assumptions need to be made. So we're assuming human-like metabolism. But how much did they need to eat? How many calories? So the needed amount of calories may vary depending on some factors such as height, weight, sex, and age, as well as fat percentage. Importantly, it can also vary rather heavily depending on the equation you choose to use. There's a variety of calculators you can plug in information and get a calorie count to maintain, gain, or lose weight. And as luck would have it, the very first game gives us at least one subject where we can get most of this information. Reed's holotape is over her autopsy of a dead super mutant the Brotherhood had uncovered. Labeled as Subject A, the super mutant stood 3.2 meters tall, or about 10.49 feet. It weighed about 363.21 kilograms, or rather 800.74 pounds. The report also gave us a muscle mass of 77.41% and a fat percentage of 3.02%. Very useful information for plugging into a calculator, although we do lack an age and sex, but depending on the equation, such as a negligible difference in calorie information. I mentioned the equation twice. Let's address that. So we'll be using the Catch-McArdle equation largely because it needs the user to input their body fat percentage, which we actually have. And the other formulas do not take this into account. It also doesn't factor in age much, which is good because super mutants are virtually immortal. And sex doesn't impact calories much in this equation, which is great as the super mutant becomes sorta uniformed, particularly on the East Coast, at a pure basal metabolic rate. As in, if the super mutant is not moving around at all, practically in a coma, the super mutant would need 7,978 calories to maintain their body composition. For comparison, let's say a young American adult male has a weight of 197.6 pounds and is 5'7", with a body fat of 26.1%. Now, it's traditionally understood that the more active a person is, the more calories they burn. If we assume this man is lightly active and exercises about 1 to 3 times a week, they require 2,476 calories a day to maintain weight. The super mutant is so large that merely existing, doing nothing else, requires a daily caloric intake that's nearly 3.25 times larger than our lightly active young American male. Now, I said traditionally understood because there's some debate if activity does burn significantly more calories than normal daily expenditure, the exercise paradox. But there's criticisms against this. We'll assume it does as the more long-term standard. Changing the activity level of our super mutant subject to light, such as our average young American man, the calories required jumps up exponentially. Now subject A requires 10,970 calories to maintain their physique. But these guys fight. They hunt, they kill. They're likely very active, which the calculator describes as 45 to 120 minutes of daily elevated heart rate. And they may need to consume 13,763 calories each day. Of course, this is one super mutant from Mariposa. There's probably a bit of variety between each individual super mutant, and potentially even the generation they're from. There's also a number of other variants of super mutants across the coast. The Vault 87 Institute and Huntersville super mutants. There's a significant noticeable difference between the Vault 87 and the Institute super mutants alone. Although, due to the asset share, we can assume Institute and Huntersville mutants are about the same, bar some special cases. What's challenging is getting concrete written or verbal lore descriptions on them. Through all the terminals, holotapes, and note entries, I found nothing on either of these mutants' height, weight, or fat percentage, despite all the scientists that have been observing them. The West Tech scientists of Huntersville had their subjects' initial weight and height listed back when they were human, but never followed up on their final mutant numbers. Really weird choice on the part of Bethesda. Now, the wiki says that the Vault 87 super mutants can be as short as 8 feet tall and up to 20 feet tall for the behemoths. And the wiki also states that the Fallout 4 behemoths are around 13 feet tall. I have no real idea where these numbers are being pulled from, as it doesn't cite any sources for them. I assume these numbers come from character model comparisons. Thing is, using model size differences for lore is a bit of a crapshoot. Like, look at the behemoth's fire hydrant weapon, or car door shield, or even the shopping carts. These things are comically large. Still, the 8, 13, and 20 feet doesn't sound unreasonable, so let's roll with them. But there's a problem. We don't have weight nor body fat percentage. For weight, we can use some really simple scaling to get a very rough idea, and I'm talking very simple, prone to error, which we'll talk about a bit later. But it does give us a basic idea. We'll use the cube square law for scaling, which says when an object is scaled while keeping the exact same proportions, its volume and mass are increased by the cube of the multiplier, while the surface area is increased only by the square of the same multiplier. This helps to outline it. Basically, if a cube increases by double of itself, you'll need 8 cubes in total to keep the same proportions. Height is double, surface area is quadrupled, and mass is octupled. If you want it to triple itself, you'll need 27 cubes in total. Quadruple itself, 64 cubes, so on and so forth. As you can see, weight can add up very quickly in comparison to height. A simple equation can look like this. The new height is divided by the old height, which gives you the multiplier. You cube it, having it times itself thrice. Then multiply that with the old weight to get the new one. For the 3 heights, we get the following. At 8 feet tall, 244 centimeters, the super mutant has a weight of 161.01 kilograms, or rather 354.96 pounds. At 13 feet, 396.24 centimeters, the super mutant behemoth has a weight of 689.57 kilograms, or rather 1,520.24 pounds. And at 20 feet tall, 609.6 centimeters, the super mutant behemoth has a weight of 2,510.97 kilograms, or rather 5,535.74 pounds. They're pretty hefty. So we have numbers, and we can get an idea of their calorie needs. Well, most numbers. We still have no idea what their body fat percentage is, but to keep it simple and on an even playing field, let's just assume all these super mutants have 3.02% of body fat. The following is giving an assumption of moderate activity, exercising 15 to 30 minutes 4 to 5 times a week. At 8 feet and 354.96 pounds, the calorie needs to maintain weight is 5,483. At 13 feet and 1,520.24 pounds, the calories jumps up exponentially to 21,704 that the behemoth needs to maintain weight. And at 20 feet and 5,535.74 pounds, the behemoth needs 77,600 calories a day, which is about the daily calorie requirement of an elephant. Needless to say, this is a lot of food that any super mutant needs. Even the smallest of them need quite a bit daily. In the brutal Wasteland, can they really get their fill? Let's take our original subject A and round to 11,000 for a number that's easy to remember. 11,000 calories each day. It sounds crazy, but it's probably doable. The Super Mutants have a few things going for them. They're big and needy, yes, but they are pretty small in number due to sterility. A community of Mariposa mutants filled up a mountain resort, so they don't have to share much. They're also immune to diseases, so they can eat about anything that's dead, fresh, cooked, or rotting. A really common practice for dog. And based on the gore bags from the newer games and the rat surprise from Fallout 2, decaying dead things appear to be regularly consumed. Speaking of rats, we're going to look at them as one possible food source, or try to. It's surprisingly hard to get solid numbers for the size of Fallout's rats. No weight, no length, no height. Closest I could find was some New Vegas concept art for K-Rat, which ultimately was finalized as Giant Rat, that simply gave us the description of smaller than a dog, but larger than a cat, which is nearly useless given that dogs come in quite a variety of sizes. So I just googled the average size of a random house cat. Minus the tail, they're about 18 inches in length. Let's make the giant rat 22 inches in length. Again, minus the tail. Alright, since we're using the New Vegas rats as a base, let's assume they're mutated from some common rat in Nevada. The brown rat has an average length of about 8.45 inches, once more minus the tail, and they weigh about 320 grams on average. Scaling up like it did the mutants, this puts the rat at 5,647.39 grams, or rather 12.45 pounds. A bit heavier than the average house cat, as you'd expect. In real life, at 300 grams, rats offer about 650 calories with plenty of protein. Yummy! At 5,647.39 grams, the new rat body offers over 12,236 calories. More than enough to sustain a singular mutant. This doesn't consider bone weight, but to be honest, I expect that's being chewed on as well when it comes to most super mutants. Now luckily for them, there's far bigger targets out there to feed multiple mutants. How about the Brahmin? Luckily we don't have to do much calculation. We can simply compare the Brahmin to the real life average cow. And someone already did the math for that. 783,000 calories for the entire thing, 60% of which are protein and 40% fat. This could feed 71 Mariposa mutants, or perhaps 10 of them for about a week. Of course, given that Brahmin had the extra head, there's potentially even more meat that could be pulled. Bighorners would also be very calorie-packed, being large creatures, likely providing hundreds of thousands of calories per slaughter. They also appear rather muscular, so a good chunk of that is likely protein. Then there's humans, a delicacy for the East Coast mutants. Should I really Google this? Huh. So the average man is about 125,822 calories. A heart is 650 calories a pop, and liver 2,569 calories. The thighs alone will be enough to give the mutant their daily calorie needs. A single Wastelander could feed a small squad, or even a behemoth. Honestly, no wonder East Coast mutants want to eat people so badly, or practically delivery and takeout. Huh. Super mutants are big, strong, and very hungry fellas, but evidently there's more than enough food to go around for them. This is my admittedly oversimplified and potentially very flawed examination of super mutant nutritional needs. I know there are variables I didn't account for. Honestly, scaling super mutants is prone to potential errors. Take the weight of the 8-foot tall super mutant. While the 354.96 pounds isn't unreasonable, it does feel a little on the low end for what is essentially an 8-foot tall bodybuilder or even strongman. For context, that's about the weight of this guy, who is 7'2". And the behemoths are not perfectly proportional replicas of their smaller siblings. They're lumbering giants who undergo physical, noticeable changes to their body, and that will affect their overall weight. It's also pretty foolish to assume our one single case of Subject A perfectly represents all non-behemoth super mutants when it comes to body composition, and using such as a proportional base is flawed in concept, but trying to get a perfect measurement of a fictional species with so few sources is a bit of a challenge to say the least. Additionally, the calories provided by prey would naturally depend on their own diet. If such prey struggles to get food, their fat and muscles will take a dive, providing significantly less calories. And these calculations don't consider that. Plus, the meat comparisons didn't account for body structural changes. Still, I thought this was a fun exercise, even if flawed. Feel free to chime in with your thoughts below. And a special thanks to my channel members, especially my muscular members, like that crazy game developer and Danny McVie. If you'd like to support me and join as well, I'd be more than happy. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe, all that typical YouTube stuff. Thank you. Have a good one.